gentlemen, please welcome the Peach Bowl champions, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Hello.
Underutilized word.
I think it should be every day.
It's great word. Yeah.
Before we get going here with the Hoosiers, how about this? Indiana, just a couple days away from playing in a national championship, something I know a lot of these fans thought was unimaginable for years. What is it about this collection of coaches and players that made this week possible?
Well, we're here because we're prepared the right way and we have the right people on the staff and in the locker room, and we got tremendous support from our president and our athletic director, and we have a great fan base. And, you know, we have a plan and a process. And we have great leadership and good players, and we've been very consistent in terms of our play in all three phases. So we've met every challenge. So the novelty of being here to us isn't there. You know, we're here. We got a job to do. We got a challenge to meet, and we got 2 more days of prep.
You mentioned this fan base. They have showed up every step of the way. Anything you want to say to some of the fans that are in attendance here and going to be at the game on Monday?
Well, if you're not sure you can make it down, find a ride. Yeah, the Big Ten championship last week against Oregon, the Rose Bowl. Yeah, Indiana fans, largest alumni base in America. A lot of people didn't know that, and you know, it's been huge for us.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
She'll be doing the hit question.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Woo! Bright lights.
Just a quick heads up that when they speak in this, you won't hear them. This is for the transcription. So if we need to repeat any questions, let me know, okay?
I won't hear them.
You will hear them.
I'm a little hard of hearing.
Okay. All right. We got you. You ready? You want to give an opening statement? You want me to start questions?
We'll start with questions.
You bet. Any questions? Anybody want to ask a question? Does anybody want to ask a All right.
Hi, Curt. Ari Wasserman with On 3. Can't hear me? Okay.
You can use this. This is for the transcription. But
Oh, it's okay. You said up here that the novelty of being here isn't there for you guys and that you have a job to do. When you're doing something as a program for the first time when you're doing something as a program for a first time in a century, how do you balance that? We've got a job to do, and how do you enjoy this?
Yeah, you know, we're still in our process, our preparation process, right? We all understand that. Obviously, the last 2 years, it's been a great story, right? And it's been fast progress, kind of surreal to some degree. It's a big story nationally. I get that. And but that's separate, sort of, from our team mindset right now in terms of us physically being here and what our intentions are today, what we got to get done today. So it's been great. We've got a lot of momentum, but we're playing a great football team. And Miami, tenacious up front on the defensive line, really physical on the offensive line, big running back, athletes everywhere, playmakers at wide receiver. You know, special teams are very good. They're playing on their home field. right? They didn't have to travel. So it's a big mountain we have to climb.
Okay, we're gonna come over here.
Hey, sorry. Hey, Coach, a lot's been talked about how you make the right pieces fit on your roster. When it comes to talent evaluation, what was the one, maybe a couple things you took from Coach Saban that have paid off for you here?
Yeah. When I was with Nick, there was an evaluation sheet, and supposedly when he was with Belichick at the Browns, he had sort of come up with a sheet or had a large impact in that. And ankle, knee, hip flexibility, toughness at every position. Ankle stiffness, hip stiffness, knee stiffness, fatal flaws. It's start-stop game. Generate explosion from those three facets of your lower body. That would be the biggest things from a personal standpoint. I learned from my mistakes, and I think most of us, that are aspire to achieve at a high level, either learn from our mistakes or we don't progress, right? So, when I was young, we took some potential guys. We had to. When I was with Coach Majors at Pitt, we didn't have much, didn't have facilities, didn't have money. We weren't very attractive to recruits. We took a lot of guys that had certain qualities but hadn't quite put it all together. So I learned from that. To me, there's a lot to be said about what the guy's made of, his intangibles, and his moldability or coachability, what kind of teammate it's going to be. You still have to have a certain level, obviously, of athleticism to be successful at the P4 level, right, in the Big Ten. But you get the right group of guys together that combine to the team, and they're good decision makers, they're good people, because you got to make decisions on the football field too. And you got to play with discipline, and you got to play with poise, and you got to play with confidence and consistency, and have day in, day out consistency to a high standard and expectation. And that's what these group of guys have done to this point. But, there's a lot to be done yet. And they understand that.
Curt, to that end, a year or so ago, you're looking for your quarterback. You land on Mendoza, obviously. What was it at the time before you knew that made this seem like a good fit?
I was aware of Fernando because we had Alberto, the younger brother. He signed with us at JMU. Tino Sinceri signed him. He had won 2 state championships, was a special family. They were all high achievers. The mom had gotten sick. I knew the dad a little bit. So, I'm a tape junkie, and I would see Fernando on tape maybe from 2 years ago when I'm watching Red Area Pass or something. And then when he went in the portal, he was a talented guy. Didn't take many plays. Had a lot of physical attributes. Knew what kind of family he came from. We had Alberto in the program. So he got here, and he done a great job of developing. Tremendous job. And he's probably played better after he won the Heisman, which is a real credit to him. But we got one more to go. So that was an easy decision.
I know. Coach, how has your team been able to handle the pressure of these high-stakes games, especially these last 3 or 4? And how do you anticipate them handling Monday's pressure?
To me, it's noise and clutter. You stay focused on the here and now, control the controllables, be detailed in your preparation. That gives you the most confidence going in, gives you the best chance. And because we have so many guys on this team that are older and have started so many games, the moment has never been too big. We have not always been perfect, but we've been very consistent in all 3 phases. So, and I think as we went on the road and won tight ball games, especially at the end of the game, like Iowa being the first one, that just gave us more and more belief and confidence and put us in a better position down the road for the same type games.
All right, Coach, we got a huge smile from you after the last game, and you said you wanted to crack open a beer. Tell me, when did you crack open that beer and what kind? And
it was Hoosier beer.
Hoosier beer.
Hoosier beer. You ever hear of Hoosier beer?
I have not, and I live in Indiana, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it was shortly thereafter. Just one only.
Okay.
Yeah, at my age, you drink two, you fall asleep.
And then you said, when you came on and you said, Google me, I win, did you think in 2 years, and you wanted to be successful, did you envision being here on this podium to play this game on Monday?
I don't think I ever thought that far ahead, honestly. It was such a quick hiring process. And then when I got here, I found out so many things I didn't know. 10 offensive starters in the transfer portal and some other things that, like two universes colliding. We pretty much won championships year in, year out. And doom and gloom on the Indiana side. And that's kind of why I got out there a little bit the way I did. I knew I was out on a limb. I had to find out if the fan base was dead or on life support. The basketball game was the first thing. And then Google Me was our press conference, signing day press conference, when I asked the same question for about the 14th time. So I had a lot of confidence in myself and the staff because we had had success. That's why I took the job. But I can't say I ever thought this far ahead.
Hey, Coach. What do you buy into? You know, when they started paying players a lot, there was this idea that you just had to pay to get 4 and 5 star recruits, and you had to bring in the very, very best. I think we know that Indiana doesn't have 5-star recruits. So is that all, frankly, BS, and it's just a matter of what you do once you get the players?
This game's all about recruiting, development, retention. The development piece is huge. Derek Owings, our strength and conditioning coach, been with me 6 or 7 years. He's always in high demand. Does a tremendous job. And then the way you coach them in the meeting room, the way you practice, the things you put in their head. There's a lot of guys out there that can play, and development and consistency are the two key factors. I really, honestly, have never looked at a star in my life. I understand they're out there, 4 stars, 5 stars, and all that good stuff. If a guy can play and he's got the right stuff in terms of intangibles, and he's a worker, and he loves the game, he loves football and the process, and he's got enough physical ability, he'll develop.
Hey, Curt, Mario was in here earlier talking about his early days at Miami and seeing that program kind of come from a program nobody believed in to what Miami became. This is not a sport that welcomes new parties to the big boy table very often. Do you see some similarities in maybe how Miami was built and became what it was to what you're trying to do now at Indiana?
In terms of the result, probably. In terms of the product and what you're getting, probably not.
Curt, could you describe your sense of humor, and are there ways that you use it to make points with your players?
Absolutely. It would be hard for me to describe my sense of humor because I see it all and I hear it all. But I make my points, and I have a way of getting them across to the kids in as few words as possible. And I think Brian Haynes said it best. I read something 2 weeks ago. He had said, get it across in as few words as possible with the most amount of impact. And that's been my philosophy for a long time. And if I've got something, a point I need to make, I'm going to hit them right between the eyes.
Coach, you mentioned when you got here, you had to see what the level of fan support was. Fast forward to today, you have Mark Cuban hopping in to support the program. A lot of schools seem to be doing that as well. What's the experience been like to have that level of support from an alumni who's stepping in saying, I believe in exactly what you're doing. I'm gonna contribute directly to it.
Yeah, well, Pete Yonkman runs our, he used to run our, now everything's changed. And Mark Cuban's gotten involved too at a level. And, if Mark Cuban wanted to give $10 million, that would be like me donating $10,000. But we're glad that he's involved, and if he keeps doubling his donation, it'll be big one day. And it takes a village, it takes money, but it's not all about money. We got a lot we got a lot of alums, a lot of rich alums. But Mark Cuban is a very visible guy. He's from Western PA, born in the same hospital, him and I. We kind of hit it off right off the bat. And, to have a guy, he's got, instant recognition, which only helps.
Curt, right? The practice before the Rose Bowl, you were disappointed with the team's performance. Was that the last time that they failed to meet your standard? And what's the expectation with today's practice?
No, I would not say that. And we'll find out because I have a press conference tomorrow, right? And we'll see how today goes because first practice on site is a challenge.
Curt, a lot has been made of your sideline disposition. The cameras always seem to find you. So, one, have you heard from family and friends on that? And then two, internally, so much to manage. What are you thinking about actually in those moments?
I'm always just trying to anticipate, think ahead, because there's a lot of critical decisions you got to make that can affect the game. And trying to take emotion out of the equation. And, I see it. Yeah, everybody sees it, right?
Curt, you mentioned the uphill battle of having to play Miami in their home stadium, but the Indiana fan base has really turned out for these bowl games. Do you have that expectation that we'll see a lot of red in the stadium again? And have you been surprised by how the fan base has responded to this team, mentioning the doom and gloom that was coming in when you came in?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think we'll have a great showing. It probably won't be like the Peach Bowl, but we'll have a great showing. I have not been surprised the way they've traveled because once we got rolling year one, we were selling it out and they couldn't get in, and it's only grown and grown.
Sig, there's sort of this high-stakes game that's going on in the quarterback transfer portal that you've had to play. What's the period like where, between you get a guy and then what he is on the field? I mean, how do you sort of deal with that sort of
You mean in terms
intermediate
of
period?
developmental curve?
Yeah, like you have Fernando on campus and you haven't seen him play for you, for a while.
Yeah, but that's what recruiting is. Recruiting's evaluation. And, if you trust your evaluation and your history of evaluation has been successful, and you have a lot of confidence in yourself and your process for evaluation, then you feel strong about a guy. And I felt extremely strong about Fernando. Extremely. Like I knew we had something.
Coach, to come from James Madison and to take, so obviously when you look at your coaching staff, your student athletes, to not just go yourself to Indiana, but to bring them with you and to see the success, what does that say about the power moniker, the group of moniker, and when it comes down to just the fiber of who a person is?
Yeah, we kind of create those categories artificially, right? Group of five, this, that. And, these games are televised, these ones aren't. And, I think the average fan probably doesn't understand sometimes that there are some really good teams at the group of five level and players. Obviously, we brought guys here. They've been some of our better players. They've been All-Americans. I do think the group of five level has probably been watered down a hair since I left JMU because the transfer portal every year takes and takes and takes, right? So maybe some of those teams aren't quite as strong as they were when I left, so to speak. But, those guys all had a little chip on their shoulder. They had something to prove. They were really good players. We'd had a lot of success. They're wondering why they weren't recruited by a P4 program, and this was their opportunity. And truthfully, the process happened so fast, me taking the job, and almost didn't take it because I love JMU. Once I got here and they started jumping in the portal, I was like, oh, yeah, we could use him. Like, I had never entertained the notion that they may follow me. I had no idea what was in Indiana. What I knew about Indiana was just being a coach's kid and loving college football and following college football since 1970 on. Knew they had some good teams. The one thing that did catch my attention, however, about 3 years ago when that TV contract was signed by the Big Ten, making all that dough, that caught my eye.
Coach, what stood out about D'Angelo Pons when you recruited him, and did you anticipate this kind of success from him?
Pons is a player. He's a great player. He might be the best player I've ever coached that was with me throughout his entire career in terms of consistency and production. You saw it in camp right away. First week of camp, he's out there. He just had to quit holding. He's holding a little bit. But he cleaned that up and became a starter. When he became a starter, my last year at JMU, I think it was down at Troy, our third game of the year. They had won the Sun Belt the year before, and we beat them at Troy. He started, and he made plays right off the bat. First series that impacted the game, and he's been a great player ever since.
Curt, I think there's this notion out there that you are like a magician who has figured out this magic trick to make Indiana become great all of a sudden. Do you view it as like you've done something special here, or is this just you're repeating your process that you've done everywhere and it's working here?
Yeah, I'd say B. I mean, there's no magic wand. It's the fundamentals, and you got to have the right people, number one. If you don't have the right people, it doesn't matter on your staff or in the locker room. And then you have to have a plan for development, recruiting, and retention. And then obviously how to practice, how to play the game. So it helps that we've had coaches that have been together for a while. And every day you get better, you get worse, you never stay the same. And that includes me. Every day. If you're not striving, someone else is, so you're getting worse, right? And I'm a film junkie, and I mean, we're not way out there like, wow, what a scheme. But, we're fundamentally sound, and we find the right matchups up to this point. And so, no, there's no magic wand. I'm no wizard, that's for sure. We do have a play called Wizard that we put in for this game, however.
Coach, I think the casual football fan would be surprised to hear you say that you almost didn't take this job, that you almost stayed at JMU. What flipped your thinking to decide IU was the place?
Well, it was Wednesday night. I just got back from Indy talking to Scott and the president, and I had that pretty good idea they're going to offer me the job. And I'm laying in bed with my wife about 8 o'clock at night, and I said, I think I'm just going to stay. I like this place. And Scott didn't give me a chance. He called me up and said, congratulations, you're new head coach at Indiana, and we're going to kick some butt. And I said something, about 5 or 6 words I can't say here, hung up the phone, and that was it. So he didn't give me a chance to say no. He told me I'm the new head coach. My wife said, you should have seen that look in your eye. Like, what did I do? No, it didn't. Once I got here, there was so much needed done, and yeah.
Coach, obviously you and Mario both worked under Nick Saban at one point. Is there any relationship that you have maybe between you and Mario in the past?
I don't think we've ever met.
So, Curt, everybody has a fatal flaw, something that's annoying or something they do wrong. People would think that Fernando does not do anything wrong, does not, like, he cleans his room and he's like this perfect person. What is his fatal flaw?
I don't know what his fatal flaw is. I know he's a good quarterback that really developed a lot and has to play well this week. I think in life, all humans are flawed, but he's got great things ahead.
Hey, Curt, when Alberto told me when you told him you were recruiting another quarterback, he said, I'm not going anywhere. What's he like, and could you see him winning the job next year?
Yeah, I think his words were, I'll stay a year, but he's got to go out early, and then I'm the guy. So we'll see what happens there with Alberto. I think he's got a good future. I like him a lot as a player, and we'll see what the future holds.
Coach, you just spoke about the transfer portal. Last year's national championship had 2 quarterbacks it was their first year at that school, fresh transfers. Same situation this year. Can you talk about those changes in college football and maybe some of the success transfers have had?
Well, it is a little bit like free agency now, and I'm not going to go too far down that road, but the quarterback position is the key position. It's hard to win without a good quarterback, or at least win big. And Miami's quarterback's done a great job. Fernando's done a great job. Last year we had, Ohio State and Notre Dame, right? 2 really good quarterbacks. And that is a position, however, where the guys that play quarterback, they don't like to sit. Like if they know they got the right stuff, they want to play.
Coach, I was just listening to Pat Coogan talk about Miami's defensive front, talk about how violent and twitchy they can be. How would you describe Miami's front guys, the Baines, the Mesidors on that line?
Oh, they're great players, both ends. All the inside guys, they play a lot of people. And I know how Corey coaches. It's schematically it might be a little different, but I know the philosophy's not much different. And, he's got them creating havoc and TFL, sacks, stop the run, playing with an edge. Nasty edge. And, I'm extremely, extremely impressive group. Those guys are going to play a lot of football when their college days are over.
Coach, you mentioned Coach Heatherman, and obviously you worked together for a few years, and you said kind of like what he does and how he does it. What have you seen from him and how he's grown and how he's matured as a leader on the defensive side, and just what it's like to know that once you were on the same side, now you're on the opposite side?
Yeah, well, we actually don't communicate a ton anymore, but I loved him. I didn't want him to leave. We had a great relationship. I really thought a lot of him. And then, you're so busy. He's busy, I'm busy, that it's hard to. But, we exchange texts occasionally. I've seen schematically a change. I can't talk to his growth as a leader because I'm not with him day to day. But I always thought he was a great football coach. Fortunately, I had Bryant Haynes, who I think is the best in the country. And they're different. They're different guys. Corey's a hard driver. And you'd be shocked to know that Corey played quarterback in college. And I used to joke him all the time. I heard he had no touch when he threw the ball. You find that hard to imagine knowing Corey, right? That he wouldn't have touch as a quarterback. But Corey's a great football coach. He's done a great job here.
Hey, Curt, just a housekeeping question about Brendan Frankie, your long kicker. I think he's questionable now. He was a game-time decision last week. He hasn't kicked in a while. He said he feels good. Do you feel like he could be back on Monday? And obviously that's a factor on kickoffs and potentially long field goals.
I think he's listed as questionable or doubtful. Questionable. We'll know more probably after today's practice. Yeah, that was the big practice. The last time we traveled to the Rose Bowl, we thought he would be ready, and he had a little setback. Oh, he's a huge factor. Guy kicked 2 58-yarders back-to-back against Oregon. One they called timeout, and I think the Iowa one at the end of the half was a 52-yarder. And we're talking like 3 seconds ago and a half, which were huge points, and every kickoff through the end zone.
Hey, Coach, can you talk about Elijah and just his importance? And also looking back, before he went to JMU, he played for an IUP grade. He played for your father as well. Did he at St. Francis? Did any of that factor in and kind of get on your radar?
I knew about Elijah when he was entering his junior year of high school. Then I took his older brother, who was a safety at VMI, and we played him in the playoffs the COVID year. And I could tell he was a very instinctive player, his brother I'm talking about. So we took his brother, the safety. Elijah then went to St. Francis in Maryland high school and ended up at St. Francis in Loretto, PA. Yes, Chris Valerio played for my dad at IUP and was the center for the Bears for about 10 or 12 years. And Elijah caught close to 50 balls, and there was another receiver there too. We needed receivers, and that's how we got Elijah. He tweaked his knee a little bit that first spring. I think when the year started in the fall, first game of the year, he was third team. Made a couple plays game 2 against Virginia that were big.
and then started every game after that. Made first team All Sun Belt and caught, I think, over 80 balls that year.
Hi, Coach. We are from Belgium. I have two questions. One is beer related, one is football related. You've been known to say that you like to crack open a beer after a win. Might I suggest a cooperation between Belgian beer and Indiana brewery called Shark Pants to open after the game? And then second, you guys have been blowing out teams lately, but people seem to forget that you had some close games like the Penn State game, Oregon game earlier in the season. What has changed since then?
I mean, you're going to play close games, and you got to find a way to win them. And if the one thing about this team is they have played like we want them to play. There are certain things we preach on the opening kickoff to the end of the game, and they've tried to do that pretty consistently. And if you do those kind of things, and you got enough talent, you should win your share of those close games. And the Penn State 2-minute drive was huge. Obviously, our backs were really against the wall, and I think one of the reasons that we have so many lopsided scores. And it's not that I throw the ball when we're way ahead, because I don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by as the Hoosiers rotate podiums.
But we run the ball, but our 2s and 3s are playing really, really hard. So the point total goes up.
They want to know if you have an answer to the beer.
Give me the question again.
Say it again.
Yeah, well, we are from Belgium, and Belgium is the country of beers. And yeah, you made the remark that you like to crack open a beer after the game, so I thought, why not have a good cooperation between, it's a beer brewed in Belgium, but in cooperation with an Indiana brewery. So it's a fine India Pale Ale.
You find our equipment guy and have one of those cold ones in the cooler for after the game, if we're fortunate enough to come out 1 point ahead.
Coach, how do you actually teach discipline on the field? Is it as simple as we run sprints for penalties? What's the actual good cop, bad cop science to that?
Well, there's a lot of things that go into it, but in coaching, you get what you demand. And if you're not coaching it, you're allowing it to happen when you see something you don't like. And we want to do everything to a high standard, and there's got to be accountability when guys can't consistently meet the bar. Discipline on the field is getting 11 guys to do their job, because when you get 11 guys to do their job consistently, play in, play out, it's not addition, it's multiplication. The challenge is only not that play in its entirety, it's all the plays not affected by success, not affected by failure, never satisfied, right? And there's a lot of things that go into that to get 11 guys to do their job. And then when you do have success, act like you've been there before, right? And we also want to be, we're one of the lowest penalized teams in America and always have been. Play smart, disciplined, poised. All those things are discipline. And we're number one in the country in turnover ratio. That's discipline. And if you want to be good in anything in life, you got to have a goal. And then you got to be committed to it and have the discipline day in, day out to work toward your goal, the work ethic, and the mental toughness to persevere. And, that all goes into discipline.
Hi, Coach. Coming from Ireland, look, I think there's a lot of coaches in any sport that can learn a lot by the mindset you instill in your players from day one. Is there anything specifically that you think you teach to your players that could come across to any sport and could transfer to anyone in any field in life?
You take over a losing program, you got to change the way people think, right? And you got to give them the belief that if they do things the right way, prepare the right way, there's no self-imposed limitations to what you can accomplish. That 95% of the game in season is right between the years.
Coach, what you, your staff, your players have done
What do you think what you've been able to accomplish even so far and what you might be able to accomplish Monday night stands among the great moments we've seen in American sports history?
So now I'm a sports historian too, huh? That's for you guys to figure out.
Hi, Coach. You've gone almost viral on social media for the way you keep your poise during games. How do you keep your composure so level during such high, intense moments?
Self-control, I guess. I'm just trying to anticipate, and not be emotional, which is the best way to make good decisions. Because you're going to make decisions during the course of the game that are going to be critical to the outcome of the game.
Hi, Coach. I actually met you at Family Weekend at JMU. My older daughter graduated from there. You are amazing. Is there a coach or someone that has inspired you to become such a great coach?
My dad.
Your dad?
My dad was a great role model growing up. I was the oldest of four, and he led by example. And he had a presence about him. And he had great work ethic, discipline, commitment. And, he was, back then, grew up in Western PA. Everybody worked in the mill or the mines. And he went to college and became an assistant at the Pitt, Princeton, West Virginia for Bob, and became the head coach. Then came down with cancer my senior year of high school and was given his last rites twice. So, he didn't really get to finish what he started there. But yeah, he was my inspiration.
And you're my inspiration.
Thank you.
Curt, you mentioned how Corey's kind of evolved. How have you seen Mike and Brian evolve since they first joined you on the staff?
Mike just keeps maturing, and I'm able to walk away more and more, which I need to do. In this day and age of college football, especially in the playoffs, where you're juggling portal recruiting and retention, things like that. Mike is really good. He's got a great demeanor and disposition, and he's one of the most trustworthy people I think I've ever met in my life.
I feel like this season for y'all could be a movie. Which actor would you want to play as you?
Let's get through this game.
Hey, what's going on, Coach? So you famously said Google me. So I did. I looked through your coaching history, 40 years. If you could go back to the very beginning now and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I had to walk every path to become who I am today. So I don't have any regrets.
Hi, Curt. I wanted to ask you about recruiting players that left the program first and then came back, like Lewis Moore and Khalil Benson. What was that process like? Because they left when you got there. Was it more of a business approach at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a business decision. I didn't want them to leave at the time. I understood, based on critical factors. And then I think once they saw the success we had and heard from their teammates, they wanted to come back and be a part of it. And for me, it was a business decision.
Hey, Coach, Pac-Man Jones here with Politely Raw. James Madison, Utah, you have done an unbelievable job. Everybody keeps talking about the size of this Miami team. Is it the size or is it the fight in the dog?
Miami. They're playing with an edge. They're a tough football team. Both lines are really good, and they get after it, and they got athletes, and they're tenacious. And, it's a start-stop game, twitch and explosion, and then, you got to have a little edge about you, and they're impressive.
Coach, right here. With the way, I know you said you don't interact with him necessarily much during the week, but with how Fernando's playing at the level he's playing, what, if any, corrections do you make? And this might be a little weird, have you ever had a heated exchange with him?
No matter how good he plays, there's always corrections on tape from the game before, which you know, the process is we come in on Sundays as staff, quick staff meeting, and then we break up offense, defensive staffs, and I watch the tape real close with the offensive staff. And Chandler's, there's always things that, you know, he could have done a little better. I've never really had a heated exchange. I can only think of one time early in the season, I think it was Indiana State, where he made a couple poor decisions in the red area, whether to pull the ball or give the ball off, or maybe one time throw the bubble or not to give it to the back. I can't remember. But I remember making a point on the sideline. And I think that's the only time I really ever had to kind of make a point where I felt like my point needed to be made.
Hey, Coach. Lane Higgins from the Wall Street Journal. You know, one of the benefits of having an experienced graduate transfer quarterback is the experience, but the downside is that they're probably only going to be with you for a year, maybe two. So in this day and age, you know, how do you go about building a roster and, you know, continuing to potentially build a dynasty, if that's what you're aiming for, when you have players that you're only getting them for a small amount of time?
And you started the question out the quarterback position, right? Well, every one of our quarterbacks since 19 has been player of the year in the league. So we're doing something right, and they've all been one-year transfers since the first two. I guess Curtis Work was not, but he led the country in QBR. You know, and we've already got one committed for next year and in school. That's part of it, I guess. You know, it'd be nice to have a guy for a few years, but, you know, when you've got a chance to get a guy that can play winning football, that's been through the wars, that's the way to me, it's an easy decision. Because you got to win every year. Now, you know, there's no, in 5 years we'll be good. You know, that was a long time ago. So it's not a perfect world, college football. A lot of issues, obviously. You got to improvise, adjust, be light on your feet, you know, if you want to thrive and survive.
Curt, congratulations on your success, by the way. Good luck on Monday night. I'm from Philadelphia, by the way. If the NFL coaching job ever opened up, would you consider taking a job in the NFL, jumping there? I know you said you're just kind of loving the moment with everything, so.
I mean, I'm not an NFL guy. I made that decision a long time ago when I went with Chuck Amato to NC State in 2000. I had a chance to go with the Packers, Tom Rosley, Mike Sherman. Favre was in his heyday, kind of like an assistant. I think Darrell Bevel got the job. Ended up taking the job. I declined the opportunity. I almost took it. That's when I made the final decision. Yeah, and I've always been more of a college football guy.
Hi, Curt. Obviously, this has always been the goal for you guys, but to actually be in this position, have you taken any time to reflect on how far your program has come?
Well, I get asked that a lot, and not much time now because there's always something that needs done. Every week brings its challenges this time of year in college football. So when the season's over, yes, but really the focus now. I have said a number of times it has been kind of a surreal thing, but you know, our focus right now is what we got to do today to put ourselves in better position.
Hey, Curt, I wonder, being an assistant for almost 30 years, how did that shape your ability to scout kids, to evaluate kids, develop? I wonder, being an assistant role that long, it helped you along the way as you built rosters.
Well, yeah, I think I was 28 years Division I assistant, I think. Recruiting coordinator and a coach for probably since 93 to 2010. And around a lot of really good people, assistant coaches too, that I drew from and learned from. And the recruiting coordinator thing, it helped me. It did help me. I was always trying to get out of that job. My dad told me that thing's going to really be valuable for you one day. And so at the end of the day, I was hitting the big 5-0. I had a couple girls in high school that wanted to be doctors. Son was a freshman at Alabama. And I didn't want to be a 60-year-old career assistant. I grew up in the business. I tracked assistant coaches and families and careers, and that I didn't want to do that. So I bet on myself. And but I didn't wake up every day at IUP like I got to be a P4 head coach, right? I was trying to make the most out of life, and it brought me here.
What do the JMU guys mean to you? And let's start with that. What do they mean to you that they followed you here and they've had so much success?
Well, you know, like I said, I never thought about the JMU guys coming here. It was such a quick process. Once they started jumping in the portal, and we had some, I think we were down to 40 scholarships here. I mean, we needed them. So I was glad. And they were instant impact guys in a lot of different, on and off the field. And they were, I think, critical to the acceleration of our development and success in year one.
Why do you think they're so important?
Because they could answer questions for the guys that decide to come back and the new guys, the other new transfers, on how we do things, how I am, those kind of things. But they were players.
Right.
I mean, Pons was an All-American, Fisher's an All-American, Surratt was on some All-American things his first year. A lot of them. So they're good guys.
Can I get one more? With Fernando, there have been stories that, from the spring and the summer that a lot of people didn't necessarily see this coming. How do you explain just how far he's come?
Yeah, and I've been asked that question before. Every one of those quarterbacks, DiNucci, Cole Johnson, Centeo, McLeod, Curtis Rourke, Mendoza, all player of the year in the league, except Rourke, because Gabriel won the Heisman, but he won QBR. Not great the first half of spring, a lot better the second half of spring. They have a good summer. Fall camp, different player. Better at the end of fall camp, and then they build on their success early in the season, and they just get better and better and better, because with success comes belief, and with belief comes confidence.
Sig, I guess I know you're prepping for a game, but as you look at the structure of this college football thing and just roster building and things to that effect, whether it's contracts, the timeline of these things, I guess, A, do you feel like these contracts are kind of enforceable right now, and B, just broad strokes, what do you want to see, if anything, change with the way that these things are going on right now?
I want to see a lot of things change, but I'm not going to go very far down that road right now. I'd like to see rules that are black and white and ink, and that we all follow, and there's consequences when you don't, and we don't have that. We got a lot of gray area and ambiguity.
Coach, we've learned a lot about the Mendoza family this week because of where we are. We always talk about high character guys when you're recruiting. What have you learned from the Mendozas and the story we've seen about them this year?
I knew where they came from, so I think the older one, Fernando in particular, I saw how one guy could kind of bring a team together. You can have close, tight teams, but this team here is extremely close. He was like the glue sealing the open edges and cracks, you know what I'm saying? Which probably to a degree I'd never seen before.
Coach, why was it important to bring Grant Wilson in, even though you knew he probably wasn't going to start, and how has he added to this quarterback room as a future coach?
I can't remember if I brought Grant in after Fernando or before. After? Okay, then I was probably thinking about the number 2 or 3 job. He, when he started for ODU against us at JMU, he played pretty well that night, and they had a high-powered offense. So he's coming back for one more too. He'll be back.
Last question right here.
Hey, Curt. How much did you rely on the players that you had brought from JMU to help deliver your message early? Were they an important part of helping the holdovers understand what you were about and what your scheme and your system were about?
Well, I never asked them to do anything. Anything they did on their own. But, they were the kind of guys that were going to make the program better and bring the team closer together. So that's why I think they were so critical to year one success.
What do you think of Fernando's public speaking skills and how he's able to represent the program?
He's incredible. I take notes.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks. All right, let me get out of here.
We're going to do Nicole here, Nicole Arbach, and then you're on to the BT at 7. Which I'm sure will.
And when we came back, we all kind of got to leave the phone and gave him a little crap and said, this is really different Indiana. So he earned it. He earned the spot back. And I think he's realized that it is a different Indiana. And I think he would be one to get up here and play over. It's the best decision he's made coming back. Obviously, he's a All-American. He's a pretty seasoned people play for us. So I think it's just one example of, never going to come back. Like I said, everyone's dream is to get a one college wins possible and make it as far as you can. For me, these last 2 years, especially this year in particular, I feel like it's just a culmination of all the hard work me and my teammates put in, from the coaches. Everyone supported me, my parents, my family, everyone supported me back then. My parents still had to come in, they would come support me when I wasn't playing and we were losing games. So, just that support system I had is, part of the reason I'm here. My family had this support system, I worked on dearly, and that's part of the reason I'm still here too. Still love what I'm doing, but this season, is special, but, I don't think anyone on our team is satisfied. Like I said, we'll be satisfied with the money when we get it. Played a lot of snaps. Whether that's being old as, we keep seeing that we have the oldest team in America. So, just guys that play a lot of snaps and, go out there and know their jobs, know how to just do your 111. And that's what's so important to us is, you don't have to make every single play on the field. Just do your job. When the play comes through, you make your play. And if everyone does that, everyone's making plays. And, that's offense and defense. No one cares who makes the tackle, who gets the touchdown. I think you can see, some of the scores, they're small by the whole team. Everyone, some of the offense scores, everyone scores. Some of the defense makes a big play, everyone makes a big play. And so that's what just makes this team special. It's matures, veteran guys. They know their job, know what they're doing, do the role to the best of their ability, and we have great coaches that get us in those positions to win. Can you talk about that? Yeah, just about the season. So, one thing that makes the team great, in my opinion, is, you can't just be the same team every week 1, week 5, week 10, week 11, week 14. I think that's what really great is, you self-reflect a lot. We're always looking to improve and chase that perfect game. And then, even if you're on defense and, oh my, Tony Beck and those guys score, we'll have on the sideline, you might see us going up and down. Because, that's us, that's the Indiana Hoosiers, that's our team sport, that's us winning, that's us going up 7 points, 14 points. And I think it's the same with the offense. When someone makes a sack, it's a big 6. That's their points, they get the ball. So, I think it's just a team that feeds off each other, and, you need a momentum going, and, we have, guys making plays to take stuff. Coach Haynes, has full confidence in all lineups. If you're out there for a reason. So it is nice, having a new coordinator, linebacker coach, we'll go out there and publicly say that, a lot of coaches won't. That's just the bond that Coach Haynes and us, we don't have the linebacker and my bond with Coach Haynes has grown tremendously this year. Nothing wasn't good last year. It was really tight last year, but when you're out there, you have another good system, you're probably understanding the window, the bond grows. And so I guys, Coach Haynes and I are really close, and having been able to select this media conference to go out there and play fast. But, I got the support of my team and my coaches. I've heard this before, that, they might not have settled in yet, and, players, don't want to get it. And, I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I think, we're all so focused and mission driven that maybe, when we do win a big game, we might remember it that night, and the next thing you know, it's like, who's next? Whether it's the championship to Rose Bowl, or who's going down. I don't even know, we all were happy after the Peach Bowl, but we all knew this was next. So I think the attention quickly shifts. I think that's what makes this team so special is, we're not, satisfied with the Big Ten championship. We're not satisfied with the Rose Bowl championship. And all those things are great. I think we will reflect on it, when we handle business Monday, after the season, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. But, for us right now, we're so goal-oriented, focused on our mission that it's, it's a one-week season, we have a lot of seniors. And, guys, that this means a lot to, and so it's how we win the next year.
All season, you guys have reached the next benefit mentality. Last season, you kind of blocking defense behind this year. What's that kind of
Ladies and gentlemen, there are 5 minutes remaining in the Indiana Hoosiers media session. Once again, 5 minutes remaining in the Indiana Hoosiers media session.
is the hunger to continually improve, and then when we're getting shot back into their time spot, it might last that night, and then the very next day, like, who's next? How are we going to beat the next team? How are we preparing? How are we gaining that urge to beat the next team? Now we have to make it so special. Is, no one lingers on a previous win. No one lingers on a championship race. We're going to Chick-fil-A pitch for us, it's the next game. It's how are we going to win?
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's Media Day. For those members of the media who took transportation from the Media Hotel, departures will begin shortly in the same location as drop-off. Once again, that concludes today's Media Day. For members of the media who took transportation from the Media Hotel, departures will begin shortly in the same location as drop-off.
We're going to close this thing out as the Hoosiers head back to their hotel with Aiden Fisher. And we were just talking about how close this team is. What has this ride been like from your perspective?
It's been so special and fun to be a part of. These guys are really